All right, welcome back to the second video on circles. So as we move away from vocabulary, we're going to get into some arithmetic now. We're going to talk about area formula, and we're going to talk about circumference formula. And hopefully these are something you've seen before. So first, we'll start with area. Area is equal to pi times radius squared. And just keep in mind that that means that area is equal to 3.14, or use the pi key, times radius, right? So this is what I'm thinking about. Circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. Now keep in mind that the radius is half the diameter, so if I have 2 radius, or 2 radii, that's equal to diameter. So circumference is also equal to pi times diameter. Now, in reference to pi, we can either use the pi key on the calculator, right? That's more exact. That's a more exact answer. Or an acceptable abbreviation for pi is 3.14. So let's take those two things and let's hit the road, do some math. All right, so we're going to put this into action now. It says find the area for 1 through 4 and circumference for 5 through 8. So the first thing we want to decide is, have we been given the radius or have we been given the diameter? So I'm looking at number 1, and I have a segment whose endpoints are the center of the circle and one is on the circle. So I think this is our radius. So since this is number 1, it said to find the area. Area is equal to pi r squared. I always write the formula first, right? Start with a formula first. Gives you a sense of direction. Next, I'm going to write the formula with everything I know substituted. I don't know the area, but I do know that this is pi. That's always in there. It's a static value in the function, times 12 squared. And keep in mind that 12 squared is not 2 times 12. 12 squared is equal to 12 times 12. So area is going to be equal to 144 pi. And 144 times pi is approximately, whether you use the pi key or 3.14, you're going to get 452.39 square meters. And that's our final answer. Remember that area is two-dimensional, and that 2 represents the fact that this is area. Without the 2, this answer is not correct, right? So it's a big deal. All right, let's move on. Second question. I have this segment whose endpoints are on the circle, and it passes through the center. So I think that I've been given the diameter. So 18 divided by 2 is equal to 9, is equal to the radius. So area is equal to pi r squared. Area is equal to pi times 9 squared. That's 81 pi, or area is approximately, to the nearest hundredth, 254.47 square inches. All right, and there you go. As far as circumference goes, right, at 5 through 8, we're going to find the circumference. So circumference is equal to 2 times pi times r, which, by the way, it's okay to multiply these two first. And I'm looking at what seems to be a diameter, right? A chord that passes through the center is going to be the diameter. So diameter equals 10.2. So radius is going to be equal to 10.2 divided by 2, which is equal to 5.1. Okay, so as we use that information, we're going to get circumference is equal to 2 times pi times 5.1. Now again, show your work. Right? Show your work. This isn't about final answer. It's about the process, right? Math is all about training your brain on how to think, right? So we want to see what your thought process is, not just a final answer. So the next thing we do is we'll multiply 2 times 5.1, and it brings us right back to 10.2 times pi. Now remember, the previous slide, we said that circumference is equal to 2 pi r, or circumference is equal to diameter times pi. The diameter was 10.2, and here we are at 10.2 times pi. Now let's just go ahead and round that off. Remember, circumference is one-dimensional, so it's just going to be meters or feet. It's not a square unit. So it's just a distance, the distance around, and that's going to be 32.04 meters. And that's our circumference. Just for anybody who's not sure, if we had a circle, this and here, that space is the area versus the distance around the circle, that's the circumference. And that's my horrible handwriting, but you get the point, right? This is a distance number, whereas this is two-dimensional space. And that's the difference between area and circumference. Another way to think about circumference is really just like the perimeter, all right? But perimeter is distance around a polygon. Circles are not a polygon, so we have a separate word for the distance around circumference. Okay, let's keep going. Things start to amp up a little bit here. We're going to use the area and the circumference formulas to find the radius or the diameter. So first things first, they want us to find the diameter of a circle that has a circumference of 65.97 meters. So I start with what I know. They said the word circumference, so write the formula for circumference. Circumference equals 2 pi radius. Okay, that's all held together by multiplication. And what have I been given? I've been given the circumference. So 65 equals 0.97, I should say, equals 2 times pi times the radius. And I can get this to be a decimal. 2 times 3.14 is approximately 6.28. So now I have a nice little simple one-step algebra problem. I want to solve for radius. I divide by 6.28 on both sides, and I get a radius approximately 2. 10.5047, so we'll just say 10.50. That's the radius, and 2 radius is equal to diameter, so diameter is equal to 2 times 10.5. So diameter, our diameter is going to be approximately 21 meters. Now that was a lot of work. Remember, there was another formula I could have used. Remember, we said that circumference was also equal to pi times diameter. So if I've been given the circumference and they want me to find diameter, then this is probably the way to fly. So circumference was given as 65.97 meters is equal to pi times diameter. Divide by pi, and we're right to 21 meters is equal to the diameter. And that's it. That's, I think, a lot easier than what we just did. And technically the answer was 21.0095, so 21.01 meters rounded to the nearest hundredth might be a more accurate answer. All right, let's keep moving on. The next question just asks us to find the radius of a circle. Right? Find the radius with a circumference of 21.99 feet. Again, if you have radius given or circumference given, you have circumference equals 2 pi r, or you can use circumference equals pi times d. If you use this formula, don't forget to divide d divided by 2, at the end. And I probably would just recommend this one so that when you're done solving for r, you have the answer. All right, so you can do 10 on your own. For 13, it says find the diameter of a circle with an area of 615.5 square centimeters. So area is equal to pi r squared. You've been given an area of 615.75, and that equals pi times radius squared. So what are we going to do? We're going to divide by pi on both sides. Remember, pi is just a number. And when we divide 615.75 divided by 3.14, or the pi key, we're going to get approximately 196.098, which rounds to 196.10 when you're rounding to the nearest hundredth. That equals radius squared because the pi's cancel out. Okay, now, and that was a horrible looking pi, I apologize. And how do you undo radius squared? This is just like the Pythagorean theorem, right? We take the square root, and we're going to get radius is approximately 14. Technically, it's 14.00, but that's not the final answer. They wanted the diameter. So diameter is equal to 2 times radius. So diameter is equal to 28, and our units were in centimeters, so that's 28 centimeters. That's our final answer. Again, start with a definition, right? A formula. And substitute, right? Substitute known info and move towards the right answer, right? So if I'm looking for diameter and they tell me I have area, then it sounds like I should start with an area formula and then put in the area that I've been given and move towards finding the radius. Use that radius to find the diameter. This is a thinking course. Keep thinking. These next couple of questions are really not that challenging if you just read carefully, right? So use the information given. So you have some given information to find area or circumference, right? Or circumference. So the first one says find the circumference. So we really just want to divide this into two pieces. If we're going to find the circumference, I'm going to write the circumference formula. Circumference equals 2 times pi times radius. Okay. And we're going to find the circumference of a circle with an area of 289 pi square millimeters. Okay, so they gave me area, and area is equal to pi r squared. So I start with a given formula and work my way through, see what happens. So 289 pi square meters equals pi times radius squared. And what do I want? I want the radius. So I'm going to start doing some algebra. First, I divide by pi on both sides, and that cancels out the pi quite nicely, leaving me with 289 equals radius squared. How do I undo squared radius? I take the square root, and that's going to leave me with a radius of the square root of 289. Now, the square root of 289 works out nice. That's 17. Okay, so I'm going to take 17, and I'm going to put that right here. Okay, so circumference equals 2 times pi times 17. Circumference equals 34 pi millimeters. Now that's a reasonable answer. And again, that's pi. Or I can leave that as an answer, or I can round to the nearest hundredth and multiply 34 times 3.14. That's going to give us 106.76. So 106.76 millimeters. So that's our final answer. Of course, this one was also an acceptable version of a final answer. So 106.76 is good. Just for the record, if you used the pi key, you would have gotten 106.81. millimeters. Either one is good. We'll accept both answers. The pi key is probably the best way to fly, but 3.14 is acceptable. We'll try one more. 18, it says find the area of a circle with a circumference. So the last one said find the circumference starting with the area. So again, if you're finding an area, then area is going to be the last formula we perform. So pi r squared. And what I need is the radius. They said that the circumference, right, 2 pi r, was equal to 131.95 meters. So I put that in. 131.95 is the circumference. That's equal to 2 pi radius. Now, a little different. This one doesn't have pi in the answer, so I can't just divide by pi and make it go away nicely. So what I can do is I can multiply 2 times pi to get 6.28 times the radius. And then I can divide by 6.28 and divide by 6.28 on both sides to cross that out and yield me a radius of 21.01, technically meters. Okay, so now I come over to my area formula. Area is equal to pi times 21.01 squared. Right, these are parentheses. And now I just need to square that and multiply it times 3.14. So 21.01 squared to the nearest hundredth is going to be pi times 441.42. And after I multiply that times pi, I'm going to use the pi key this time. I get approximately 1,386 and 76 100ths. So that's rounded to the nearest hundredth. And that's going to be square millimeters. Now, again, if you're rounding differently, right, different rounding is going to get us a slightly different answer. So if you had used, instead of 441.42, if you just use 441 times pi, 441 times pi would yield us 1385.44. And you'll notice that's not exactly, but you know, it's close enough. It's not about, again, it's not about the exact decimal. It's more about the process. So make sure you show your work. Okay? All right, well, hopefully that was helpful, and you can refer to the post for the actual assignment. Take care.